He just wanted to repair an old music box. But being in the wrong place at the wrong time stole his freedom. Now, the only weapon Emiliano had left was his melodies. Emiliano Cruz's hands were trembling. The small brass mechanism he held between his fingers was the only real value his grandfather had taught him: patience and attention. The 20-year-old young man was just trying to repair a music box that night. He wanted nothing else from life. It was 9 o'clock that evening. He was standing in a small workshop in one of the city's old neighborhoods. His customer was an elderly woman. She wanted to have her grandmother's music box repaired. "Please," the woman had said, her eyes teary. "This is my only memory of her." Emiliano couldn't say no. He never could to such things. But fate plays strange games. That evening, Emiliano was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And his life shattered in an instant. While searching for the missing gear inside the music box, he began to hear strange sounds from outside. Quick footsteps. Whispers. Then a banging sound. Emiliano raised his head, frowning. The workshop's window faced the street. Outside, he saw the shadow of a man running. The man was holding a bag, running without looking back. "What's happening?" Emiliano murmured. But he got no answer. Because at that moment, police sirens pierced the air. Emiliano's heart began to pound in his chest. The tool in his hand fell. He turned toward the door, but it was too late. The door opened. No, it was slammed open. And 4 armed police officers entered. "Hands up!" shouted the first officer who entered. His voice was metallic and cold, just like the gun in his hand. Emiliano froze. His hands in the air, his eyes wide open, he couldn't breathe. But I. The words got tangled in his throat. "Don't move." Another officer pressed Emiliano against the wall. His hands were roughly pulled behind his back. Handcuffs were placed on his wrist bones. The cold metal burned his skin. "What are you doing?" "I didn't do anything." Emiliano's voice was trembling, panicked. But no one listened. This is exactly when everything changed. At the police station, Emiliano was seated on a metal chair. The cold neon lights hurt his eyes. 2 detectives sat across from him. One was old, his hair gray, deep lines on his face. The other was young, sharp-eyed, notebook in hand. "Emiliano Cruz," said the older detective, placing the file on the table. 20 years old. Private school graduate. Music box repairman. No criminal record. "Yes," said Emiliano, his voice cracked. "Yes, I didn't do anything. I was just—" "Tonight at 9:15, said the young detective, interrupting him. "A robbery occurred at 47 Maple Street. A jewelry workshop. $250,000 worth of diamonds were stolen." Emiliano's eyes widened. "What? But I wasn't in that building. I was somewhere else. My customer's security camera footage," said the older detective, pulling out a tablet, "shows you entering that building. 8:48 p.m. And the building wasn't evacuated until 9:30. The tablet was extended to Emiliano. On the screen was a blurry security camera image. A man was entering through the building's entrance. The man wore a dark jacket, had a backpack, his head was down. Emiliano's stomach churned. "But that's not me. The jacket is yours. The bag is yours. The times match." "No. I was somewhere else at that time." Emiliano's voice broke. Because at that moment he realized, the evidence pointed to him. And the system looked at evidence. Not truth. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. Emiliano's lawyer was a public defender. a tired, disinterested middle-aged man who barely read the file. "Listen, Emiliano," said the lawyer, adjusting his glasses. "The evidence is against you. Security camera, timestamps, witness statements. It's very difficult to prove to the jury that you're innocent." "But I am innocent," Emiliano shouted. "I was just repairing a music box." The lawyer shook his head. "Unfortunately, innocence isn't enough. You need proof. And right now you don't have any." When the trial day came, Emiliano's heart felt like it would burst. His mother was sitting in the back rows of the courtroom. Her eyes were red, she kept wiping her face with a tissue. Emiliano couldn't dare to look at her, because what he saw in her eyes, disappointment or pain, was tearing him apart from the inside. The prosecutor was a powerful woman. Her sharp words had an effect on the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen," said the prosecutor, opening her hands, "this case is very simple. Emiliano Cruz entered that building that night. He accessed the jewelry workshop, and he stole $250,000 worth of diamonds. Security cameras show him. Timestamps match. There is no reasonable doubt." The defense lawyer's argument was weak. "My client is innocent. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, that's all." But he couldn't provide evidence. Couldn't find witnesses. There was nothing. The jury came back after a brief deliberation. They announced their decision: Emiliano Cruz. Guilty. Emiliano's world stopped at that moment. No sound reached his ears. He only heard his mother's scream, distant, muffled, a painful scream. The judge struck his gavel. "Emiliano Cruz, you are sentenced to 3 years in prison." Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. When the prison door closed behind him, Emiliano felt as if he had lost the world. The heavy, metallic sound of the door penetrated to his soul. The guards around him were cold and distant. "Walk," said one. Emiliano stumbled. His legs were trembling. On his first day, he was taken to his cell. It was a small, narrow, grey cell. There were 2 bunk beds inside. One was empty, on the other sat a man in his 40s, muscular, with a scar on his face, the look in his eyes tired and hard. "New fish," said the man, looking at Emiliano. His voice was hoarse. "What's your name?" "Emiliano," the young man whispered. The man nodded. "Miguel. I've been here for 4 years. The first night is always the hardest. If you're not going to cry, stay calm. If you're going to cry, do it quietly." Emiliano sat on the top of the bunk. His hands were trembling. Tears were coming, but he held them back. Because Miguel was right, this was just the first night. And there were many more long nights to come. The first week inside was a nightmare for Emiliano. The noise of other inmates, fights, shouting. Every night, someone was crying. Someone was getting angry. Someone was going crazy. Emiliano was searching for silence in a world without earplugs. But there was no silence. Nowhere. He ate, slept, woke up. And morning started again. Days blended into each other. Time had stopped flowing. It just stood there, heavy, clumsy, painful. But there was one thing inside him that never went out: melodies. But the most shocking thing was this. Emiliano's grandfather hadn't just taught him music box repair. He had also taught him this: melodies are frozen memories of time, Emiliano. When you listen to them, you travel to the past. When you fix them, you heal the soul. As a child, Emiliano hadn't understood this. "Grandpa, this is just a box," he would say. "There's only metal and springs inside." But his grandfather had smiled. With his old, wrinkled hands, he had stroked Emiliano's face. "No, my child. There are memories inside. There is love inside. There is loss inside. And you bring them back." Now, in prison, Emiliano understood his grandfather's words. Because those melodies were keeping him standing. Every night, he would close his eyes and imagine his grandfather's workshop. That small room that smelled of dust, that smelled of wood. The old music boxes on the wall. His grandfather's hands. And those melodies. One day, while sitting alone in the cell, he began to hum a melody from within. It was a familiar melody, his grandfather's favorite, an old Swiss waltz. Emiliano's voice trembled, but the melody was beautiful. "What's that?" asked Miguel, sticking his head out from the upper bunk. Emiliano hesitated. "A melody. My grandfather. He always played it." Miguel nodded. "Beautiful. Too beautiful for this place." But Emiliano continued to hum. Because that melody was taking him away from here. And he needed freedom, at least in his mind. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. In his third week in prison, a guard came to Emiliano. The man was old, maybe 65, maybe 70 years old. His shoulders were slumped, his walk was heavy, the look in his eyes was tired. But there was something, a pain, deep and old pain. "You're Emiliano Cruz, aren't you?" the guard asked, a soft tone in his voice. "Yes," said Emiliano, surprised. The guard was holding a small box in his hand. "Rusty, old, dirty. Miguel told me something. You're a music box repairman." Emiliano nodded. "Yes, but I'm not anymore." "Maybe," said the guard, placing the box on the table, "but still give it a chance. Can you repair this?" Emiliano looked at the box. It was an old Swiss-made music box. There were carved flower patterns on the lid, but the flowers had faded. Its mechanism was locked, corroded spring, broken teeth. But he immediately recognized it. Because he had repaired such a box many times. "This is very old," said Emiliano quietly. He stroked the lid with his fingers. "At least 100 years old." The guard nodded. "My wife's grandmother gave it to her. When she died. I broke this box. I couldn't stand it. Because every time I opened it, I remembered that I had lost her." His eyes filled with tears. "But now. Maybe I want to remember." Emiliano looked into the guard's eyes. He saw that deep pain. He also saw his own pain. And he nodded. "I'll repair it. But I need tools." The guard smiled for the first time. "I'll find them. You won't believe this, but..." The next day, the guard brought Emiliano a small tool bag. Inside were screwdrivers, pliers, a mini saw, oil, thread, small screws. The guard had said, "Don't tell anyone about these. This is against the rules. But I trust someone like you." Emiliano took the bag. His hands were trembling, but this time not from fear, from excitement. For the first time in so long, he was going to do something. Something real. In the corner of the cell, he began to work quietly. Under his fingers, metal came to life. Gears turned. The spring slowly tensioned. Each screw, each adjustment took Emiliano to the past, to his grandfather's workshop, to those warm noon hours, to moments when sunlight illuminated the dusty air. Other inmates made fun of him at first. "Look at him," one shouted. "Playing with his toys there." "Maybe he wants a baby," said another, with laughter. But Emiliano didn't care. Because he was inside the melodies. And melodies were making him free. Miguel was watching from the upper bunk. "Don't mind them," he said one night. "Everyone here is trying to cope with their own pain. So are you." Emiliano nodded. "I'm just doing what I need to do." "I know," said Miguel. "And that's what makes you different. What you're seeing now is nothing." A week later, the box was ready. Emiliano tightened the last screw, dripped oil for the last time, and placed the key in its place. His hands were trembling. Because he knew this wasn't just a box. This was a man's past. A man's love. The guard entered the cell from outside. There was something on his face, hope or fear. Emiliano couldn't tell. "Is it ready?" the guard asked. His voice cracked. Emiliano nodded. He extended the box. "Try it." The guard took the box. His hands were trembling. He turned the key. And at that moment, the melody began. A sweet, sad, nostalgic melody. Slow, soft, pure. As if it was filtering through time. The guard froze. His eyes filled. His hands went to his face. His shoulders shook. This is my wife's song," he whispered. His voice was broken. "When we first danced. On our wedding night. This melody was playing." Emiliano watched silently. The other inmates in the cell had also fallen silent. Everyone was listening to that melody. And inside that melody, there was something: sadness, love, loss, hope. All together. The guard wiped his tears. He looked at Emiliano. "Thank you," he said. You gave me back my wife." Emiliano smiled. For the first time in a long time. "No," he said. "She was always with you. I just fixed the melody." Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. The guard's story spread throughout the prison. Other inmates began to come to Emiliano. The first to come was a young father. He brought a broken toy music box for his son's birthday. "My son is 3 years old," the man said, his eyes teary. "I haven't seen him for 3 years. But I want his mother to take this box to him. Maybe he'll remember me." Emiliano took the box. He repaired it in 2 days. The box played the melody "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." When the man took the box, he cried.